Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Watchful Citizen, a local access cable program brought to you by the Lancaster County Democratic Party. My name is Benny Shob, and I'm your host today. Today our guest is John Yoakum, chair of the Lancaster County Democratic Party. We'd like to welcome John to the program. John, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on today.
So, I have a few questions about your job as county party chair, but I want to start with, what is the Lancaster County Democratic Party? Tell me a little bit about the party.
Well, the party is set up to help get Democratic candidates elected and champion causes throughout the community.
So, if an individual is a registered Democrat in Lancaster County, is that person automatically a member of the Lancaster County Democratic Party?
No and yes.
Okay, no and yes.
Anyway, if you're a registered Democrat, you're a Democrat.
Yes.
If you want to be a member of the Lancaster County Democratic Party, you need to be either elected at the county convention, or we have a process where you can attend 2 of our meetings and then be voted into the committee.
Okay, you said committee. Would you expand on that? Is there a what is the committee and how do you become it?
Well, the committee is dedicated volunteers who want to help push out the Democratic message and Democratic vote.
Okay. You mentioned a county convention. And so there are delegates to this convention and they become part of this committee?
Yes.
How yeah.
Every 2 years, by state statute, there's a Democratic convention held in Lancaster County. And the people that attend that convention vote on who gets to become a member of the Central Committee. There is no limit to the amount of people that are on the Central Committee. So anybody who would like to get on usually gets on. It's a good way to get more involved.
So you are the chair of the Lancaster County Democratic Party, and I assume you're the leader of this county Central Committee. How did you become the chair? And what is the process of becoming chair of the party and the committee?
Well, I've been involved with Democratic politics for a very long time. My mother had me walk in precincts when I was 10, and I've been a good volunteer for many years. And then when my children got to the point where I didn't need to worry about feeding them every day, I looked around and I got more involved with the Democratic Party. First, just as a member of the Central Committee, and then I moved into more active roles, such as fundraising chair. And then I was elected as associate chair. In 2010, I was elected as chair, and re-elected in 2012.
You mentioned being fundraising chair and an associate chair. How many elected positions are there within the Central Committee in Lancaster County?
Well, our executive board consists of the chair, of course. We have 2 associate chairs. We have a treasurer and a secretary. And those positions are considered the executive board who are elected. We also break it down even more to an LD leader that is elected at the convention. And those people have to do a lot of work also.
So it's kind of a form of, would it be fair to say that it's a form of representative, organizational structure? You said LD leaders, executive boards, members of the Central Committee?
Yeah.
And all these are representatives of their neighborhoods, communities?
Yes. The legislative district chairs are responsible for recruiting and retaining precinct leaders. So it's all a span of control issue where we work as one team by building many teams.
I'm going to go back to another question. We talked briefly about being elected chair, but what do you do on a day-to-day basis as the chair of the Lancaster County Democratic Party?
Day to day, I encourage people to help the party either by, well, mostly I'd like to find people who be candidates. And this is a time where we're ramping up for the 2014 elections, so there's many open slots that'll be up for elections. There's a lot of candidates that's already announced and talked with us already, and there's more candidate slots to be filled. So recruiting and retaining good people to run for office is probably my main goal. But also, I work with a lot of groups throughout our community to help or to enable them to help with the process of good elections.
Okay, so you talked about working toward getting good candidates and building outreach to other groups and organizations. How many paid staff are there working for the Lancaster County Democratic Party?
Right now we have an all-volunteer organization. Occasionally we hire a part-time coordinator. Right now we're working with that one. And maybe during election cycles we'll hire one or two other people to help with all that.
Mm-hmm. So during those election cycles, what does the Lancaster County Democratic Party do to help candidates as they campaign for office?
Right. It's very important to realize that we're a political party and not a campaign management team.
Okay.
There's a big difference between the two.
Can you elaborate?
So,
yeah.
As a party, we want to support all our candidates as much as possible. So we will put together a slate card that goes to Democratic households throughout our community. We phone bank for all our candidates. And we act as a resource for candidates on helping find volunteers or other resources information that they might need.
You used the word volunteers twice in the last few minutes. You said that the county party is an all-volunteer organization, and then you also said we help candidates find volunteers. How important is volunteers to this operation by the Lancaster County Democratic Party?
Well, either you could raise a lot of money, spend a lot of money, and hire everybody that you need for a staff, or you can build a volunteer grassroots coalition to help get good people elected. So it's very important to recruit and retain volunteers.
So if you're always recruiting and retaining volunteers, and you mentioned grassroots organization. What all elections or campaigns does the Lancaster County Democratic Party get involved in? Just county level? Do you involve at the city level, state or national? Could you elaborate on what you actually do, what levels of candidates you help?
We work, once again, for all our Democratic candidates that you would see on your ballot. So we encourage people to vote for Barack Obama when that was time, and we encourage people to vote for Jane Rabel when she ran for county commissioner. We encourage people to vote for anybody who's a Democrat running on the ballot. So NRD races, county positions such as treasurer, engineer, public defender, public county attorney. We help all those people. We help people run for school board.
So would you say that it's not just limited to city and county government elected officials? There's also natural resource districts, school boards, and other entities that you work with candidates to get elected?
Oh, yes.
So if I wanted to be a candidate, or some one of our viewers wanted to be a candidate for office, how would you encourage them to start? Where would you?
Well, first, get hold of us, chair at LancasterCountyDemocrats.org, .com now.
But, yeah. I'm sure that we'll have that information
I'll
at
look up
the
for
end
you
of
folks.
the show, yes.
Anyway, get hold of me, and we talk about the process that it takes to file for office and what resources the county party will offer you, and what we feel it would take to run for that office, fundraising-wise or staff-wise or time allotments. We talked about the roles that office will call for you to do. You know, a lot of people would like to be in an office or elected position, but then they realize, wait, I have to read 10 hours before the meeting of whatever issues they're working on.
It sounds like that you'd serve as a good resource for a potential candidate to understand the role of the office they want to work for.
Yes.
So right now, we just recently had city council elections. Actually, I said recently, that was in May of this year. And there aren't any more elections in Nebraska until May of next year. So what's the Lancaster County Party engaged in now between this one-year elections gap?
So besides just helping people with elections, we help champion causes, and every at least 4 times a year we put on a forum of issues that were pertinent to whatever is going on in the city or the county or the state and nationally. We've done forums on the child welfare system. We've done forums on debt, good debt, bad debt. And we've done forums on how the legislature works, for example.
Okay.
Help people.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but a few minutes ago we were talking about helping candidates and volunteers. It sounds like you're also doing some community outreach and education too?
Yes.
Is that fair?
Yes, that's fair.
Yeah. So you do volunteer assistance, you do candidate assistance, you do community outreach and education,
Yes.
and all this is done by volunteers? Is that
Yes.
true? Wow, that sounds like a lot. So if someone in our community wanted to get more involved, wanted to become a volunteer, how would you encourage them to reach you? What's best, phone, email?
Well, you can, once again, email me at chair@lancastercounty.org or phone number of the county party office, and we'll put that up for you on the graphic. That's probably the best 2 ways.
So this is a lot of activity going on. You mentioned forums. Are there other outlets where you try to reach community members?
Yes, we go to as many community events as possible. We just wrapped up the Lancaster County Super Fair where we had a booth, where we had literature about potential candidates, and we help people register to vote. Actually, we just handed out voter registration cards. A lot of people do not realize that if you were a convicted felon, 2 years after you served your sentence, you could vote again. And I talked to a gentleman at the fair the other day, and that was his case, and he said, "Oh wow, I get a vote?" And he's a citizen again, you know. He's working, holds a job down, and he's very excited that he can again vote.
So you do some voter registration outreach, and you said that there are people who don't know they're eligible,
Yes.
and you're actually helping people understand that, and back as part of the community, an active member. At this, you mentioned staffing a booth at the Super Fair, the Lancaster County Super Fair. Who does that? I mean, like, the fair's an all-day event.
We have a large group of dedicated volunteers. I like to say we get volunteers early before they actually have families, high school students, college students, or just young professionals. And then not so much while you're raising your families, but then after your children are older and you can need something else to do, I got a lot of good retired volunteers that really champion our cause.
It sounds like you have a few empty nesters that might be helping you out.
Yes.
So at your booth during the Super Fair, was it just volunteers? Did you get any other? What did you do at the fair? What does this booth consist of?
We had a lot of issue-oriented discussions with fairgoers. Like I said, we registered a few voters, and we talked about candidates that have already thrown their hat in the ring. Some of the candidates had literature that we helped hand out.
So there are candidates already announced and running for the May election?
May election of 14.
Of 14.
Yes.
Wow. And did any of these candidates participate in your booth?
Yes, some of them did.
That's incredible. So if I were a fairgoer, I could stop by your booth and possibly meet a candidate for office?
Oh, most definitely.
So you volunteer staff the booth at the county fair. You do community outreach and education. You help candidates get elected. And you do this with an all-volunteer staff.
Yes, we do.
So if that sounds incredible. It's a lot of work done by just volunteers. What other things would you think that I didn't ask you about, that you think people would be interested in knowing about the Lancaster County Democratic Party?
We do social events occasionally. Where it's a low dollar event. Upcoming, we'll have a spaghetti supper in the very near future.
And it's open to the public?
And it's open to the public. It's only $5 or $10 for a family. It's a good way to have interesting conversations, meet a lot of good Democratic members, and have a nice meal.
What are the chances of me attending one of your social functions and meeting an elected official or a candidate?
Oh, very high. A lot of the elected officials like to have, like this spaghetti supper we're doing, we do a sauce competition, and some of the elected officials are very competitive in their cooking skills, and that's always fun.
So if you were to, so elected officials will be there. Do you have an idea of how many elected officials in Lancaster County associate with the Democratic Party? Majority?
Yes.
A lot of them?
Oh yeah, most of them.
I'm sorry, let me ask my question differently. Of all the elected officials in Lancaster County, how many of them are Democrats that associate with the party?
Man, that's a numbers question, Benny.
I guess the question would be better asked, is the majority elected officials, are they Democrats or are they of another party?
Well, we have the majority of state senators are Democrats.
In Lancaster County?
In Lancaster County. The majority of the city council, the mayor, are Democrats. Quite a few members of the Natural Resource District are Democrats. Unfortunately, we only have one county commissioner and not very many other countywide elected Democrats.
And you said earlier that they almost all participate in social activities and events?
Yes.
Many of them will be at the spaghetti feed you just mentioned.
Oh, yes.
That's incredible. Yeah. So if I wanted to, or if one of our viewers wanted to advocate with a city commissioner or a county commissioner or another elected official who's a Democrat, they could come to one of these events you mentioned and meet them.
Yes.
Are there other things? You mentioned the social activities. I didn't mean to limit you to that. Are there other things that you do?
Besides doing the Super Fair, we go to events throughout the year, such as Earth Day, the Juneteenth celebration. We'll go to 1 or 2 powwows a year. We'll try to be very visible throughout the community.
It sounds like you're encouraging citizens of Lincoln and Lancaster County to become more involved in not only democratic politics, but in their community governance as well. Would that be fair to say?
Oh, most definitely. We always feel that being involved with the community means more than just driving the streets and complaining about the street lights. It's so easy to make a positive impact on your community locally.
Well, we hope to have some city councilmen and some of the state senators on later. but I'm going to ask you, and this is a little awkward because I'm asking you to speak for them. How effective do you think it is for a citizen lobbyist to approach a city council person or state senator? Do you think they welcome that type of?
Oh, most definitely. I'll have conversations with city council people or state senators or county commissioners, and they ask me to give them, encourage some people to give them some input. So I do a weekly email blast, and sometimes I'll put in the city council or the mayor wants your input on this subject or that subject, and encourage them to call or email the representative.
Okay, email. You touched on another issue there. Pardon me. You can reach me by email as a citizen of Lancaster County? How do I get on board? How do I start receiving these emails?
Once again, if you send me an email to chair@lancastercounty.org, I'll put you on the email list and keep you updated with all the democratic functions that we're doing.
Yeah, email is a great way to communicate, where we can just send messages back and forth. There are other forms of social media out there too. Are the Lancaster County Democratic Party using any of those other forms?
Yes, we're on Facebook. You can look us up on Facebook. Make sure you say Nebraska, otherwise you might get Pennsylvania.
I hadn't thought about that. There are other Lancaster counties, aren't there?
There are other Lancaster counties. We have a Twitter group. Do you know the name of the Twitter?
I think it's at Lancaster. It's just the initials for the organization. I was looking at it last night. LCDP Nebraska NE on Twitter. And,
right.
And what about a website? Do you have a website too?
Yes, we have a website.
And that was just the Lancaster County Democratic Party.org.
Yeah. Yes.
So I think we've covered a lot of stuff today. We've talked about how you can become a member of the county party. We've talked about the convention and you being elected as a county chair. We've talked about volunteers and community outreach. We talked about social events. That's a lot of stuff for just a volunteer organization to accomplish. I'm impressed by all that. How do I get more involved?
Well, first you have to have a desire to get involved. And then just contact us. And you'll see the information on the screen at the end of the show for sure. And get a hold of us. We're more than happy to put people to work.
Well, that's great. I'm sure that everyone will do that, and I want to thank you. I'd like to thank John Yoakum, our guest in this edition of the Watchful Citizen, a public access program brought to you by the Lancaster County Democratic Party. Our show airs on Tuesday nights at 10:30, on Wednesdays at 6 p.m., and on Sundays at 12:30 p.m. on Channel 13 on Time Warner Cable Access. You can also find us on our YouTube channel. That's at Lancaster County Dems, one word. That's on YouTube. And I'd like to thank you for watching today, The Watchful Citizen. We hope you'll tune in again next week for another edition. My name is Benny Shope, and I'm your host. Thank you.